My story, my story. Alright, let's connect this mic. Cool, perfect. Alright, you can hear me. So, yeah, as you already know, this is basically a my story video. I'm not sure exactly what the title is, but the purpose of this video is just to basically explain my entire story, because I feel like in the past, week or two, especially when I've been hopping on loads of sales calls. I recently just did a talk, 3 days ago, explaining my story and the people I work with, telling them more about who I am. I've said my story so many times and it's made me want to do this video. So without further ado, I'll just kind of get into it. This will be a longer video, so if you want to stick around, stick around. If you don't, you want to skip the parts, don't worry. It's all good with me. I am making this video more so to basically just get this out of me. So, cool. We'll start from the beginning. Who am I right now? Right now, I'm Richard Byru. I currently run a brand called Timeless, if you don't know, and we are basically pushing the movement of building businesses to become more confident. And what that allows us to do is reach our goals and travel the world and provide for our family. That's all we want. That's what I currently do now. How did I start? Where did I come from? So if you don't know me, Richard Byru, everyone spells and says the last name wrong. Byru. Not going to tell you how to spell it. I am half Guyanese, so that's like South American. It's a very mixed heritage with West Indies. It's somehow black, I'm not exactly sure. And then I am half Russian and Latvian. That's exactly who I am. I grew up with, obviously, my parents being together. We lived in East London for a very, very long time. And eventually we moved to a very, very nice area in Essex. Beautiful area. It's a very rich and posh area where I spent my high school days. And to kind of track back onto that, I've always been a creative person. I remember my core memory in terms of when I say I'm a creative person is me and my mum used to spend evenings and afternoons like doing these. I forgot exactly what the show is, but we used to there used to be a guy who kind of showed you how to build things on TV through like cardboard and any resources that you had in your house basically. And I'd watch those videos with my mum. We kind of just go do it. I remember the first thing, or not the first thing, but the one that really pops to mind is we built a guitar out of cardboard and elastic bands, and it actually worked. It was really, really fun. I remember that. That's a core memory for me. So I've always been a creative person, but I have always also been a very unconfident and shy person. I've always struggled with social interactions and being myself, especially from a young age. I really, really was a people pleaser. I could never fit in because I wanted to fit in. That's exactly why. We'll get into that after. That's all solved. Don't worry about that. But went through school like this. I didn't really feel like I had any best friends. Certain times I would, but at the end of the day, they would kind of have their own best friends. And then I got into high school. I changed high schools as we moved. And there it felt like a fresh new start. I told my mom, I remember the second day I went there, I was like, oh my God, I found my people. Like, these people were amazing. Yeah. They were great people. And, I don't speak to them to this day, but I had some really, really fun memories with them. Once again, people pleasing, trying to become, the popular kid and really just not being myself at all. So around this time in high school, at the end of high school, I was like, started to see all this online business stuff on my feed. Andrew Tate, the Man Gadzis, the cars and the fast money you can get from online money. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Obviously, as a kid, who I'm maybe 16 at the time, like, whatever, I'll just do that later, whatever it is. I then got into sixth form. Now, this is where everything changed for me. These friendship groups who were really, really close, like super tight-knit, they were massive groups. And as we got into sixth form, there was less people. So this is college if you don't know, but just a kind of high level just before uni. And basically these massive friendship groups would separate into very, very small particular groups. And for me, who didn't actually really, really have a group, that was weird for me. It was like, oh, people were kind of just speaking to whoever they wanted to. And I started to notice that over the 2 years. And around the second year, I really, really noticed that. And I started to be a bit more firm and, not do things that I didn't want to do and kind of be a bit more myself, be a bit more comfortable with that because everyone else was doing it. Once again, I wasn't doing it for the right reason because I was trying to copy everyone else. But at the end of the day, it did work out. So I was doing that. Another piece of information that should be told here is that I have, oh, God. Well, I'm not even embarrassed about this, but I've smoked from a very, very young age. I've done loads of different drugs in my life. And that's purely because I was a people pleaser, purely because I wanted to fit in with everyone. I thought that was the only way to be social, and eventually I found that was my way to be social and fit in with these crazy, I used to think that these people were amazing, like these really really popular kids, kind of fit in with them, have access to those groups. So that's what I used to do. I used to smoke a lot of weed as well, especially in sixth form. So yeah, anyway, how did I get here then? Eventually, I started to realize I was becoming more myself, and I was becoming a tiny bit more confident. I still was this nervous, shy kid, but at the end of the day, I had made a little bit of progress. During high school, during sixth form, I'd seen Hamza. That's the one I was thinking about, Hamza. Slowly, slowly, self-improvement. I wasn't really implementing things. And it got to the end of sixth form. It was about 3 months from exams. I just said, fuck it. I'm going to start an online business. It was called Bytes Prof Marketing. I was in Andrew Tate's course, and that's what they called that's what they told them to kind of call your businesses, have profit in there, marketing in there, and then, have a special word in there as well. So I started that business. I did a lot of cold outreach, cold email, just normal like manual emails. I didn't send a lot of volume. I also went up to different shops that I kind of had been to previously, and, after a couple months, I eventually got my first client. Like, I remember going up to this guy. It was at a halal fast food stand. And, I messaged him on Insta and kind of asked him if he needed help with something. I can't remember. He was like, yeah, do you want to come down? Are you local? I was like, yeah, let's go. Had this conversation with him. Obviously, he dictated the conversation. I'm unconfident at this point. I had no sales experience in my life, especially with online business as well. So I went down to the shop. We discussed things. And he asked me for a website. Now, I just learned social media management, and I was like too scared to say no. So I said, yeah, we'll get the website done. And then, we'll start posting the social media after. I now accidentally had to learn the skill of web design. This was my first client, which was great. So I went home, designed the website, learned about it. It was terrible. I still have it on my laptop right now. I can find it and kind of actually see that website. Learned the skill of web design, which is pretty cool. And then after that, more people became aware of what I was doing. There was one night where I went to the pub with a couple mates. One of them brought a friend, and this friend owned I don't know if he owned it at the time, but his dad owned a plumbing company, and he had to take over for a bit. And I was like, yo, I'm doing this thing, and not even with the intention of selling anything to him. And he was like, yo, do you want to do this for me? How much does it cost? And I was like, oh, we'll talk about it later, because I thought it was just one of these conversations you have when you have a couple pints, right? Kind of people trying to help each other out. But eventually, I got his number and we were speaking. This is where I signed my first ever paying client. Now, this was unreal because I was doing so many different things. I was doing videography, I was doing social media management, and I was doing web design. And I was also helping him out with the stock in the back because I felt bad. I was doing all this creative stuff sitting on my laptop, and he was actually grafting. So eventually I would help him with other stuff as well, moving pipes around, moving different things. This is another thing I missed, but when before my dad and my mum split up, I helped my dad in construction. I was there for a bit as well. I've always been a hands-on person. I really really love hands-on jobs. It's just that it gets too much for me. I get to a point where like, all right, I'm putting in so much effort now. It gets to a point where like I'm just dead pretty much. I've worked my ass off. I remember kind of, don't know specifics. Let's go back to the plumbing company. I know I'm yapping a lot, but I'm really really trying to explain the full picture here so you understand. When he needed to move some pipes around in the back of the stock, I would help him, and I'd be the last one kind of out there. Not, he didn't want me to be, and I did, because that's the type of person that I've always been in my life. I've always just said, I don't care, I'm getting this stuff done. I don't care if my calves are cramping up and my head's, going, I'll just do the thing. So let's get back on track here. He now owned this plumbing company, which was in person. I'd go film and, edit stuff for him. Back home as well, but I'd go there and it was attached to this other company, which was a rendering company. Now, he didn't see the value in it because he was a bit older. This guy was working for the plumbing company. He was 18, right? So he saw the value in it. This guy was about 40. He'd been doing this for about 10, 20 years. So he was like, yo, do you want to do this for me? And I did it for about £100, made him some carousels. He was like, nah, don't want this. And kind of just to move the story forward a bit, I did a couple one-off different projects with other different companies. I got, referrals and all that. And eventually I got to a point where I was making a bit of money and I couldn't scale it and hated what I was doing. I saw other people posting on their personal brands. Now this is a pivotal moment in the story. So this was around just summer break. I just finished my exams. I was doing all this shit and I failed my exam. Well, I didn't fail it, but I got not really bad. I did really good, but worse results than if I continued studying. I didn't. I built an online business, or it was more of an in-person business, but who cares? So it was now summer, around July, August time. And this is where I'd said, you know what? I'm going to stop this. I'm going to try something else. Because this does not fulfill me. I hate this. Right? That's the first lesson I learned, where money does not buy happiness. You have to be happy, and then you can get the money. So from there, I started posting content. Just before I let my clients go, I just started posting content. A couple edits here and there, so some viral edits, video trends, and then eventually I got a comment from this person called Seth Lloyd. Now, got this comment. I was like, oh, that's cool. Another guy who's kind of doing a similar thing to me. That's cool. Reached out to him. A DM turned into a whole conversation. A conversation turned into a booked call with him, and we kind of spoke on that call. And I made my first ever friend that I could really, really, truly ever relate to. And from there, it was a spiral effect, because having people like that around you really, really changes your perspective, keeps you accountable. Because you can't see them doing amazing things and you not want to do amazing things. So I continued posting on my personal brand, and I continued to meet other people just like Seth, just like me. And this friendship grew. The friendship group grew. I met Sam, I met Ben, and eventually this turned into a London trip. Now, in terms of the business I was running, I had no idea what I was doing. I learned about this personal brand and stuff. I was like, you know what? I learned social media management. I learned web design, these other skills that I kind of had in the back of my mind. Let me just learn how to do personal branding. Now, to really, really move the story forward, I'm not going to go too in depth with this, but I definitely should, because it's a massive, massive point in my story. This is about 2 years of my journey here. So I'm 18 at the time. And I have now decided, I've just turned 18, literally just turned 18. And I have now decided I'm going to go all in on personal brand, and I'm meeting other people, etc. I'm posting content, nothing's working. The people around me are getting, hundreds of thousands of views, and they're making money in their business slowly as well. And I'm not. And it felt really, really bad. I used to compare myself a lot with them. It's something I'd never do now, but it really, really put me down, because I started this to make money for my family, for my mum. She's a single mum. I wanted to retire her. And not being able to do this for a couple months really, really took a toll on me. So eventually, after the 3 months of failure, I switched a bit what I was doing. I kept posting content. I did this thing where I was going to make websites for creative founders, people who were making content online, but running online businesses. And then I tried, God knows what I tried. I tried changing my offer a bunch of times, and nothing was working still, even then. I didn't know what to do with myself. I felt like the people around me had gotten, too far ahead of me, and I was almost being pushed to the sidelines. So I don't know how, but I just kept going. I kept fucking going. Bear in mind, I have a part-time job as well, which is why, I didn't kill myself. Because the money I got from there, honestly, I used that to buy my first camera in January of 2025. Bought my first camera. Then I bought my first ever, light. I bought my first ever laptop, which I still have with me here, and all these different resources that I now had. I still wasn't making money. Now, I'm not going to say this is luck. I'm not going to say this is on purpose and I knew exactly what I was doing. But eventually, I got an inbound lead. My first ever inbound lead who booked a call with me and was genuinely qualified, had some money to invest, and wanted to kind of hop on this call to see what I did. Hopped on that sales call. Oh my God, I cannot remember exactly how the sales call went, but the guy bought from me. The guy actually trusted me with figuring this stuff out. This was it. This was fucking it. I remember getting that payment. I was like, oh my God, By the way, I struggled to get that payment. I had nothing set up. I really, really struggled. I thought I was going to lose the sale because of it. But I remember I got it. I ran downstairs to my mum and said, £750 made just like that. And then ran back upstairs and got to work. I got to work because this guy had given me money. Doesn't matter. I need to get him results and stuff. So I really, really tested new content. You know, I had actually learned a lot from personal branding. Looking back now, I actually didn't. I thought I was more clueless than I actually was, because I wasn't. I just didn't trust myself, and this is the problem that we'll face soon. Worked with him couple weeks. You know, his videos started to get a bit like more recognition and that, and then eventually we fell off because we passed the 8 weeks, I think it is, or 10 weeks, and you know, he kind of obviously lost faith in me, and which is fair enough. You know, fair enough. But it was a lesson learned that this is when I realized, okay, getting the money is the first part. I actually need to be able to deliver the service as well. Now, I didn't let this stop me from, you know, making the sales, because at the end of the day, if someone's paying me, I'm going to figure it the fuck out. The guy was left off better than he was when he worked with me. So, completely fine. No guilt there. Cool. This leaves us in April, June-ish, I think. And I got invited out to a trip to Marbella with Seth, Sam, and that's pretty much it from who I knew. And, you know, our friends, we went to London a lot ever since we met in the September area. We went to London, you know, we met each other. Then we started hosting these masterminds. We was like, all right, cool, we've done this. Let's just actually invite other people out. Yo, we're going to London. First, we got 20 people there. Second time, we got 30 people there. Then we went to this trip to Marbella with other people from different countries. This was amazing. These people were making about 100K. You know, there was Frost who was making an amount of money I'd never seen in my life. And this guy was 18 at the time. I was just turning 19 soon. We had Sash. Oh, mate, I love Sash. And then we had George there as well. We had Zach. This is where I met Zach. And this is where things start to click. Met Zach, my current business partner, and we had opposite skills. He was good at sales and that kind of side of things, and I was good at content, the creative side of things. You know, we got along in Marbella because of this almost yin and yang relationship, and then we decided to hop on calls, help each other out. One day we just said, you know what? What if we combined our skill sets and created an offer? Timeless was born. I had the name previously, but the actual business itself was born. We were now going to help freelancers scale to business owners, because that's what we had been. We had been freelancers in the past. You know, as I said in my story there, I was working so much that I just didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to scale. I didn't see a way out of it, so I had to try something else. But there actually is. I learned it from the people that I surrounded myself with. Cool. Now it's signing the first client. This is the road to the first client. This is crazy. We're doing this even. We put the plan together. You know, I had never done outreach in my life, or in basically for this business. Obviously, I did outreach for my other business. Otherwise, I wouldn't have got my first client. But after that, I shut down that business. I had never done it again because I was too scared of it. I was so scared of it. I didn't want to hop on sales calls. I really, really hated it. Obviously, that's a fucking limiting belief. How else are you going to make money? So, me and Zach put the plan together, started doing outreach. I was really I wasn't getting the hang of it, but I was doing it. You know, I was doing it. And eventually we started to book some calls. We had now closed our first client in about a month or two. Yes, about a month or two. 14th of August, payment done. He paid us about £1,000 up front, 2,500 contracted. Wow. Even though it was less because we split the money, obviously. But wow, this was possible. One client turned into two, two turned into three, three turned into four, four turned into six. We now had a fully operating business where we worked one-on-one with freelancers to turn them into business owners. But then, here we go. More problems. By the way, we figured out service delivery. We was figuring this shit out as we went. Because at the end of the day, even though we had been through that experience ourselves, we still wasn't, you know, like six-figure business owners. We still had shit to figure out. People paid us money. I'm going to figure that shit out because that's the type of person I am, as I said before. So, figured out service delivery. And then we got to a point in December where things really slowed down. You know, we weren't booking pretty much any calls at this point. We weren't closing any calls. Things were just going, at the time, I thought, awfully south. Now, this really taught me to reset. You know, I'd been going and going and going and never kind of took a step back to understand what I was doing. By the way, went to Bali in September, so, you know, we was making decent money. But aside from that, we then took a break in December. It was like, you know what? We're really not getting anything out of this, and, you know, it's going to hurt us more if we just keep trying. So let's take a break and come back to it, you know, at the start of the year, or end of December at least. I had my creative awakening. I was like, all right, what do I do now? What do I do now? I've just been running businesses for the past 1 or 2 years. By the way, I tried dropshipping, SMMA, and trading all before that kind of happened in the past, but never went through properly. Anyway, back to the story. So, yeah, we took this break and I was like, all right, what do I do? What do I want to do in my life? What would I do if I had all the money in the world right now? Let me just act like that person. So I did that. I went back to my roots and designed. You know, I'd always had this vision for a brand, you know, rather than a business. Not to say a brand doesn't have a business behind it, but I really wanted a meaning behind Timeless. I really did. So I explored that. I spent the next 3 weeks sitting here at this laptop in Adobe Illustrator, a platform I had never used in my life, and learned how to design on that. You know, I knew how to kind of design, but finding meaning and why first, why that design exists, and then deriving it from that. So I did that. Next 3 weeks of my life, that's how it looked. I was loving life. I had never had this much fun and enjoyment in the process that I was kind of pursuing. So now I had a brand. I had a meaning behind what we was doing. You know, the unfinished mission. I will bring this out for you here. 1 second. Yeah, it's real. The unfinished mission. What does this mean? Well, look, I went through this, right? I understood that, all right, I got to my goal now. We had just made about 5K that month. The number I was wishing for, helping the people that I wanted to help. And I wasn't fulfilled. I fucking hated it. So what did that teach me? It taught me that the journey itself was the actual reward. The goal was great. The goal was amazing. But really and truly, when I think of the 5K that I made that month, I was like, wow, I went through all that shit, all that good, all that bad. Wow, that's what I think of. And that's where the unfinished mission came into play. The idea of this North Star of the brand being trust the process, understand the process is the most fun you'll have in your life. Just fucking enjoy it. You know, I met a girl at the London mastermind that we just hosted a couple of days ago, and she made a reel saying, you'll never beat someone who's having fun, which is so true. You can't beat them because that's not their goal. It's different. So that's what it represents. That's why it's in a cross, because it represents a North Star, something you follow, something you believe in. Now we had Timeless. We had the unfinished mission, a reminder for ourselves, and this idea and reminder and philosophy of how we ran the brand, we wanted to bring that to people. So it's like, all right, what does this actually mean? How do we change people's mindsets with this? Because we did it, so we just think about how we did it, just like anything else. We did that, and now it was time for the next phase of Timeless. We now we were put in a really bad financial position because we just made, you know, a lot of money, and we'd spent a lot of money previously before, so we had to kind of pay all that back. But we were now getting invited to a trip to Morocco at the middle of January, and our business was just not working. You know, I found the brand, which was great, but, you know, we needed an actual business now. We had maybe 1 or 2K in retainers paid that month, and that was it. Split between 2 people, paid some taxes. Yeah, not great. But we made the Morocco trip happen. I borrowed some money. I made some money back and paid it off. You know, Morocco, honestly, I met some amazing people there. It was mostly the same faces there, but we've met 2 other special individuals, Harry and Jet. Shout out Harry and Jet, my guys. But met them there, had a great time in Morocco. We now understood what is part of our lives. Not just the business side of things, because we understood the systems. We actually had a proven outreach system, which was crazy to me. You always struggle with this idea of like, oh, I don't know how to do this. I'm never going to be able to figure out how to actually deliver a good service and get results. We had that now. But what else did we have? We had the unfinished mission. We had the idea of it. What else did we have? We had community. We had people like us, literally like my best friends now. So that was it. Deliver this mindset and way of life through a community by building a business. wow, holy shit, things happen for a reason. Things happen for a reason. And now, like, I introduced you to the fact that I was unconfident in school. I kind of maybe didn't go over that, but I became more confident when I surrounded myself with people who didn't care who they was. They just was themselves. They didn't care about anyone else's opinions. They was themselves. And I started to do that. And now I do that myself. And I'm fully myself. I believe that. And I'm in pursuit of being myself. Finding that 100%. Anyway. So, we had this community idea. And we was like, alright, cool. Charge a lower price. You know. Because it is for a bit less lower level people. But at the same time, we still need a commitment. So, we opened up this community. And we tried the old method of outreach and nothing worked. We imported, that sounds so bad, but we moved our current clients that we were working with. You know, once again, next month we had about 1K in retainers, if that, anything. But we just moved them, like the clients that we were working with, we just said, all right, we just need you inside of here because we need to get results inside of here and see if this stuff works, you know, with the course modules, the live calls, etc. So, moved them in there. They were having a great time. There are some people still in there now, but we just weren't booking any calls, and this started a very, very depressing part of my life where I thought I had things figured out, but I really, really didn't. And throughout, you know, this is now like February, March, like we're literally on the 31st of March of recording this. So February, not great. Very, very bad month. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't think we made anything actually that month. It really hurt my ego a lot and who I thought I was, because I started to trust myself, right? Like, trust yourself and you'll do things. But this is where the unfinished mission really, really comes in. At the end of February, I looked back at the month, I was like, you know what? I did the inputs, and I'm really starting to feel more and more discomfort and more feelings and more shit. So this is where growth is coming, right? Like, this is growing pains. Cool. Enter March. First week, nothing. Second week, nothing. Third week, booked like 7 calls. Alright, let's close them. Didn't close them. My sales ability, I'm still working on. But it's the idea that we need people inside of there because they need to bring themselves inside. What, did that just die? Hold on. Hello? Oh, there we go. Alright, never mind. Anyway, yeah, this idea that, like, I've been through that. I know the mental side of it more than the business side of it. Definitely still know the business side of it, but I understand the feeling. And we need people inside of there because the transformations that we've provided are absolutely crazy. You know, we've got Matthew, our first ever client, who was making £1,200 per month, is now making £11,000 per month. Holy fucking shit. Donovan, you know, this 18-year-old Canadian kid who was about to quit online business because he was making about $300 per month in Canadian. That's like £100. We then took him to making 5K per month. Wow. You know, he bought his parents a gift for Christmas. He bought himself a laptop. Like, what the fuck? All these crazy results. Anyway. And that's when I realized. Slow down. It's okay. Like, it's fine. Just do the inputs. Understand that this is the best part of the process. And even if things go wrong, trust yourself that you're going to make this work. And you're going to keep figuring it out. And that's where it clicked. We made 1 sale, another sale, a 3rd sale, a 4th sale. Wow. We'd started to get this process on lock. And now that brings us here. This crazy journey, which is definitely not linear at all. I wish it was, because this video would be so much easier. I feel like I've had to go back on different things because I've missed it and kind of it's popped into my mind. But wow, what a journey this has been. And I just hopped off a strategy call with a client. We went over some goals. I understood why he wanted them in the first place. And it was like looking at myself 2 years ago. I wanted to retire my mum. I wanted to be comfortable. I wanted to buy my own things. Even that. And I kind of went through the goals with him and broke down a game plan with him how to get there. And I felt really good. And he was like, yeah, this is so sick. So, yeah, I genuinely love what I do. Now, sometimes I don't. I'll be honest with you. Do you think I really, really love what I did when I was, I was helping people, but I wasn't making money? I guess so. A tiny bit when I hopped on the calls, and then when I didn't, I really fucking hated what I did. So this brings me to the biggest thing that I live by. And I need to still remind myself every single day. You don't need to love what you do. You just have to love the reason why you do it. And that for me is enough. I've got a note here saying, remember why. I'm not sure if you can see that. It says, remember why. Anyway, that has been my journey. That is my story. Wow, this is half an hour of me speaking. Oh my God, this is going to take so much time to upload. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and this gives you a full picture on exactly who I am. Now, where are we going? The idea of a brand is so important to me. And what does a brand mean? How many times you can say the same message? So what does it mean then? Reputation. Ooh. Okay. I don't know why that... Oh, there we go. Did that work? What the fuck? Anyway, it's your reputation. So that's what I'm focusing on now. Not going to sales calls and pressuring people to call. I just had one, and the guy couldn't afford it. I was like, yeah, let's stay on for 10 minutes, and the rest of the time we have, and let's fix more problems. He loved that call. He was like, wow, I'm so surprised you did that. Reputation is my main goal right now. Delivering a better service for clients, because I know what I need to do. I just need to build the systems out. So this is the next phase of Timeless. Reputation by building systems. That's what we're going to be doing. And I don't want to say I didn't believe I'd get to this point, but at the same time, there have been months where I've been like, holy fucking shit, I don't know why I'm doing this anymore. I really, really should just get a job. But then I look at a job, I'm like, nah, I can't do that. That is not me. I genuinely cannot do that. I am meant for so much more. And if you relate to this story and you have kind of seen where you currently are at in any stage of my journey, please do not hesitate to reach out. We'll hop on a call. We will go through the problems that you currently have. And in terms of pitching, don't worry. If I feel like I can help you, I'm going to be like, yo, let me show you more about what we do. And if you say no, I'm not going to show you. It's simply that. It's called respect and reputation. That's what we live by. So anyway, this has been a long video. Holy shit. Anyway. All right. I'm just trying to... Whoa. Still here? Okay. This is the end of the video. I was just trying to think of any other things that I wanted to say in here, because this is my story video. But yeah, anyway, I will see you. That's like the 5th time I've said that word. I will see you in the next one. Make sure to like, subscribe. I'm going to be posting more videos like this. I've been posting pretty much weekly on YouTube. Missed last week because I've had a very eventful week. We just hosted a mastermind with 60 creators and entrepreneurs. I got to talk there. I'm probably going to post that talk in a vlog. But yeah, anyway. See you soon.